Got it? Okay. My God. You can hear it without noise also. Huh? Give her that. So what did I ask? When does it begin, bachalo? After the male reaches the age of sexual maturity. The problem here, chalu hai na? Okay. It reaches the age of sexual maturity at the time of puberty. What is the hormone under whose influence it takes place, bachalo? You remember androgens? They stimulate the process of spermatogenesis. Remember LH? The LH was acting upon the Leydig cells. The Leydig cells were acting on the Leydig were secreting testosterone. Testosterone was acting on the cells of the seminiferous tubules, and it was stimulating the process of spermatogenesis. Okay. Now, so the seminiferous tubule has got diploid cells which are called as spermatogonia. What are the diploid cells called, bachalo? Spermatogonia. Okay. So if you look at the chart, you will find that they have written over there. They undergo mitosis and differentiation. Right, bachalo? So they result in the formation of, by undergoing mitosis and differentiation, they result in the formation of many cells. All of them are still diploid only because they have undergone what? Mitosis. So it is just a process to increase the numbers, and the new resultant cells are called as the primary spermatocytes. Right, kids? What are they called? Primary spermatocytes, which are diploid, and they'll have how many chromosomes? 46 chromosomes. Now, they will enter into the second phase, where the primary spermatocytes will undergo meiosis 1. And as you guys know, meiosis 1 is the actual reductional division, as a result of which the chromosome number will be reduced to half. And the primary spermatocytes will result in the formation of haploid cells, which are called as secondary spermatocytes. So remember this: primary spermatocytes are diploid, but the secondary spermatocytes are haploid. Primary spermatocytes are diploid, and the secondary spermatocytes are haploid. This way you will have to remember even in the chapter cell division. Got my point? So when you get those type of questions, okay, this cell had this many chromosomes, this many DNA, इसका रिजल्टेंट सेल में कितना क्रोमोसोम होगा, डीएनए कितना होगा, क्रोमैटिड कितना होगा, तो वो टाइम पे तुमको मालूम होना चाहिए कि सेल का ओरिजिनल प्लॉइडी नंबर क्या है. बराबर है कि अगर एक सेल डिप्लॉइड है, बराबर है, तो उसका ओरिजिनल प्लॉइडी नंबर जो है उसका, अगर एक सेल डिप्लॉइड है हम लोग बोलते हैं, तो वो 46 क्रोमोसोम दिखाएगा. बराबर है, मतलब समझो उसका डीएनए भी कितना होगा 46। जब वो एस फेज में जाएगा तो उसका डीएनए हो जाएगा 92, क्रोमोसोम रहेगा 46। एस फेज के पहले उसका डीएनए कितना था 46, क्रोमोसोम्स भी कितना था 46, क्रोमैटिड्स भी कितना था 46। लेकिन जब वो कहां चला गया एस फेज में तो उसका डीएनए डबल हो गया, मतलब डीएनए हो जाएगा 92, उसके क्रोमैटिड्स भी हो जाएंगे 92, लेकिन उसका क्रोमोसोम रहेंगे 46। सही है ना। फिर जब इफ इट अंडरगोइंग मियोसिस, है ना, and it is resulting in the formation of haploid cells, so now you need to know कि chromosome will become half in the first meiosis. In the first meiosis the chromosome will become half, so now the number of chromosomes will become 23, but the number of chromatids will be 46, so the DNA will also be 46, because now only homologous chromosomes are separated. The chromosome has not split at the centromere. So in first meiosis, that is at the formation of the secondary spermatocytes, at the formation of the secondary spermatocytes, the number of chromosomes are 23, but the number of chromatids are 46, and the number of DNA are also 46. I hope you got my point. And then when it will undergo the meiosis 2, what it will result in the formation of diploid cell or haploid cells? Haploid cells with the same chromosome number, and these cells are called what bachcho log? Spermatids. Okay, spermatids. So these spermatids will have how many chromosomes? 23, but the number of chromatids will be morons. The chromosome will split at the centromere, so the chromatids will be 23 and the DNA will also be 23. Got my point? Yes or no? For numerical based questions. So quickly recap. 46 chromosomes, 46 DNA, 46 chromosomes, 46 DNA, 46 chromatids, undergoes dash phase, S phase, morons. Meiosis is a phase, cell division है ना वो. जब what do you have for your now? It will undergo what? S phase. The number of DNA will double. So chromosomes will be 46, DNA will be 92, chromatids will also be 92. Then it will undergo meiosis 1 to form secondary spermatocytes, where the chromosome will be 23, chromatids will be 46, DNA will be 46. And here it will be chromosomes 23, DNA 23, chromatids 23. Got it? Ayana? And then finally, the spermatids will undergo structural changes. They will become modified cells now. Their Golgi bodies and all, they'll start undergoing what? Modifications. And that will result in the formation of a new, totally different cell. And what is that totally different cell called, Buchulo? It is called as a sperm or spermatozoon. And the last step is called what? Spermiogenesis. And which hormone stimulates spermiogenesis? FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, acts on the last step of spermatogenesis, that is spermiogenesis. So this cell will now undergo structural changes and it will result in the formation of sperms. All these 4 sperms will be same or different? These 4 sperms will be same or different? Loudly I want to hear that. So if a man is producing million sperms in one ejaculation, all these million sperms will be genetically similar or they are genetically different? Genetically different. Just like all the pollen grains in the anther are genetically different from each other, because pollen grains also come from the meiosis of the pollen mother cells. So if an anther is having thousands of pollen grains, which are all haploid, they are all genetically different from each other. So even if a man is producing millions of sperms, they are all genetically different. Did you get my point? And one of that genetically different sperm has produced you. Another genetically different sperm has produced your brother or sister, which I have told you in the last lecture. Got my point? So that is why you are having similarities with your brother sister as well as you are showing differences. Because some part of the DNA is same, some of it has undergone what? Recombinations, which are called as crossing overs. And that is the reason for variations amongst us. You got my point? This whole process is called as the process of what? Spermatogenesis. Got my point? Where the last step is called spermiogenesis, where the spermatids undergo differentiation and they result in the formation of the sperms. Okay? Now, right. So we are talking about the structure of a typical human sperm. Take, okay? Now, the sperm is divided into the following parts. Do you see the anterior most part, everybody? And the anterior most part is called as the head of the sperm. This is this part where I am pointing to. This one, bachalo, that is called as the neck of the sperm. The rest of the part is called as the middle piece. And the posterior most part is called as the tail. So the human sperm got divided into how many parts? 4 parts. What are the 4 parts? Head, then a part which will be called as the neck, the middle piece and the tail. So we divided the human sperm into 4 parts. The anterior most part is called as the head. Okay? Is it a circular head or an oval shaped head? Oval shaped head. Okay? And it shows the presence of a nucleus which is packed with DNA. And what will be the chromosome number? 23 or 46? Because it is a haploid cell. There are 2 possibilities. Either it will be a sperm with an X chromosome or sperm with a Y chromosome. So these packed chromosomes inside the nucleus, either it could be X or it could be Y. So you can have 22 autosomes plus an X chromosome, we call it as a gynosperm. And you have 22 autosomes plus a Y chromosome, which is called as an androsperm. That is why in your chapter genetic basis of inheritance, if I am not wrong, principles of inheritance and variation according to NCERT text, human males are homogametic or heterogametic? Heterogametic. They produce how many types of sperms? 2 types with respect to their sex determining ability, not with respect to their genetic variations. I hope you got my point. One will be X, other will be Y. Depending upon which sperm will fertilize the ovum, you will have either a male child or a female child. And always the chance of having the next child to be male is going to be what, 50-50%. So if I am having 10 daughters, what is the chance of my 11th child being a son or daughter? 50%. And vice versa. You getting my point, Chalo? Then, an important thing is, that the head of the sperm, is covered with a modified Golgi body, which has resulted in the formation of a structure which is called as acrosome. Structure which is called as what? Acrosome. So the anterior part of the nucleus is covered by what, kids? Acrosome. You got my point? What does the acrosome function as? It releases powerful enzymes which can dissolve, or it can break through the walls of the ovum, such as corona penetrating enzymes, zona lysins. Okay, and there are types which we are going to see when we talk about fertilization. Because for fertilization to occur, the sperm needs to enter into the ovum. For that, the head of the sperm needs to penetrate through the walls of the ovum. For that, there is a presence of an acrosome that secretes powerful enzymes that help the head of the sperm to penetrate inside the ovum. I hope my class followed what I am trying to tell you. That is the function of the acrosome. Okay. So did you understand the head of the sperm, children? Yes or no? So what will you say? The head of the sperm, where is it located? It is the anterior most part. Do you agree with me, bachalo? And it is packed with what, bachalo? DNA in a haploid nucleus, which can either be 22 autosomes plus an X chromosomes or 22 autosomes plus a Y chromosome. And its anterior half is covered by a powerful enzyme releasing part, which is called as an acrosome, which helps to penetrate the sperm into the ovum. And the other name for the acrosome is Gallia capitis. What's the name for it? Gallia capitis. Okay, kids? Shall I continue? Okay. Wait. Okay? Are you clear up to here, all of you? The next part, the second part, is a constricted region. It's a constricted. You understand constricted? See, suddenly, after the head, the part has become narrow. After the head, the part has become narrow. So we say that it's a constricted region. And this constricted region, which is below the head, is called as the neck. What do you call it? Neck. Okay? And this neck shows the presence of two centrioles. You know the structure of the centriole, which I don't need to tell you that, right? So the neck has two centrioles. So we have a proximal centriole and a distal centriole. How many centrioles are there? Two. What are they? Proximal centriole and a distal centriole. After fertilization, that is when the sperm will fertilize the ovum, what will be the new cell called now? Zygote. Now the zygote wants to undergo special type of cell division, the special type of mitosis, which I had called cleavage in the last lecture. And animal cells, you know, they are astral cell division, spindle fiber formation, and they require the presence of centriole for that. So this proximal centriole proximal centriole will participate in the cell divisions of the zygote, and the distal centriole, distal मतलब उसके नीचे वाला, it will result in the formation of an axial filament that will continue down. It will result in the formation of what, which look? An axial filament that will continue down through the middle piece and the neck. Sorry. And the tail. Understood, all of you? So the neck is which region? The neck is the constricted region. The neck is the which region? Constricted region below the head. Do you agree with me? Yes. It shows the presence of two centrioles, proximal and distal centriole. Proximal centriole helps in the cell division of the zygote, and the distal centriole will help in the formation of the axial filament. Right? And in your chapter cell structure, you have gone through that 9+2 arrangement of the flagella and all that. You know that? The same thing it is. Okay, we're going to go to the next part. Now see. Okay. So after the neck is the middle piece, which is the, I can say, the power giving part for the sperm. Right? Because you'll see that it shows the presence of a special type of a spirally coiled mitochondria around the what, which look? Around the axial filament. Okay? And that structure, the spirally coiled mitochondria around the axial filament, is called as the Nebenкern. क्या कहते हैं उसको? Nebenкern. Okay? And this will, the Nebenкern, the spirally coiled mitochondria around the axial filament, will give the sperm the energy to swim. As you must be remembering, that the seminal fluid, you remember the last lecture? Seminal vesicles produce 60% of the semen, and the seminal fluids contain fructose, which is source of energy for the sperm. You remember that point? So which part of the sperm is going to use that energy to push the sperm forward? The middle piece, because it has a spirally coiled mitochondria, which is called as the Nebenкern. You got my point, Muchilo? Now, the last part, okay? The last part of the sperm. What is the last part of the sperm called? Tail part. Okay? Now, so I'll first fill it over here. The middle part. The main point here is the presence of what? Nebenкern. There is one more centriole in this middle piece, okay, called as the ring centriole. But we say that the exact function is unknown, like that. Okay? So in the middle piece, the main part we remember right now is the Nebenкern. The last part, what is the last part called? The tail of the sperm. Okay? And the tail of the sperm shows the presence of two parts. How many parts are there? Two parts. Okay? The first part is called as the main piece or the principal piece, and the end is called as the end piece. Okay? So the tail got divided into how many parts? Two parts. What are the two parts? Main piece and the end piece. Okay? And the main piece has the flagellum. You know, flagellum. Who forms this flagellum? The axial filament. The axial filament will form the flagellum. That is why if you see, there are central doublets, and on the periphery there are 9 pairs, giving it the 9 plus 2 arrangement. You got my point? And there is cytoplasm, and it is covered by a fibrous sheath around it. Okay? So the main piece has your flagella, and the blue thing that I've drawn is the fibrous sheath that covers the main piece. And you'll see that that fibrous sheath is missing in the end piece. So the end piece, which is the last part of the tail, the terminal part of the tail, shows the presence of only the flagellum. It is not covered by the fibrous sheath. Okay? And the tail will move in a zigzag manner, and it will help to propel the sperm forward. Bring it down. Okay, up. Okay. So did you get this point, Muchalo? Yes or no? Okay. So what are the different parts of the sperm if we can recap quickly? Head, middle piece, and the tail. Okay. Head, the anterior most part, shows the presence of a haploid nucleus with either 23X or 23Y chromosome, 23 plus Y chromosomes. Anterior part of the head is covered by acrosome. Acrosome is a modified type of a Golgi body which secretes powerful ovum wall digesting enzymes. Okay. Then the neck is the constricted part which shows the presence of a proximal centriole and a distal centriole. The proximal centriole helps in the cell division of the zygote, and the distal centriole will help in formation of the axial filaments. And we saw that the axial filament was running through the middle piece and the tail piece till the end. In the middle piece, it was covered by a mitochondria which was spirally coiled, and that was called as the Nebenкern. And the end piece, that is a tail, shows the presence of two parts, the main piece and the end piece. And the main piece has got a fibrous sheath covering the flagella, and in the end piece there is only the flagella, fibrous sheath is absent. Okay, at the time of fertilization I'll tell you what is the speed of the sperm and all that. Got my point? Okay. So which part of the sperm provides energy to the sperm? Anna? Which part of the sperm helps it to penetrate into the ovum? Head part, huh? Because the head part has acrosome, Gallia capitis. Correct? Yeah, Murugal, yeah, please. This is just extra information. Okay. That there are different disorders of the reproductive system of the male. I'll later on share this PDF, you can go through that. It's not for exams, just for casual reading. Okay. So now we'll start with which one, Mathalo? The female reproductive system. So did you all understand the male reproductive system, Mathalo? We started with the scrotum. Remember all the muscles and the function, then testis, then we spoke about the ducts, and the tubes, right? Efferentia, epididymis, and all that. Okay. Which part of the ducts goes up into the abdominal cavity, turns over the ureter right side? Then it joins with the duct of the seminal vesicle to form the ejaculatory duct opposite to the urethra. Okay. In the three glands we had done seminal vesicles and the prostate gland and the Cowper's gland. You remember the position of the prostate gland? And that one gland is made up of many smaller glands, each opening separately into the urethra. You remember that point? Yeah. And out of these three glands, who is the major contributor of the semen? Seminal vesicles. Okay. And then I told you about the ejaculatory duct contraction of that. We spoke about the penis in the last lecture also. Which is the most sensitive part of the penis? Gland. It is covered with a loose fold of skin which is called prepuce. It has an erectile tissue which is called corpora what? Cavernosa. Okay. And who continues till the tip of the penis? Corpus spongiosum. And the urethra passes through which tissue? Corpus spongiosum. You did not revise it at home, huh? It passes through that, right? Okay. Yeah, just mute it for some time. See, go through that male part. Now we'll start with the female one. Okay. So, kids, what are we starting with next? The FRS. Okay, it's going to be a lengthy discussion now. Okay. We are talking about the female reproductive system. Are you clear with the male reproductive system? Huh? Now, FRS. If you remember, in the male reproductive system, the first part I had written was gonads, right? And there I had written a pair of testes. Here, who are the female gonads? You have a pair of ovaries. So, female gonads are a pair of ovaries. Saru che, huh? Then, what is included in the external genitalia? What is included in the external genitalia of a male? And scrotum. Okay? Whereas, in the external genitalia of a female, who will tell me what is external genitalia of the female? If you had in school, reproductive system, tell me what is included in the external genitalia of a female, kids? Vulva. What is the part called? Vulva. Okay? And the males have a copulatory organ in the form of penis. And the female have a copulatory chamber. It's a muscular tube which is called as vagina that receives the penis during coitus. Correct, Muchilo? So it's a copulatory, what kids? Chamber. And more importantly, it is also the birth canal. It's a canal through which the fetus is pushed out. Other than that, it shows the presence of the womb of the mother, which is called as the uterus, and it shows the presence of a pair of fallopian tubes, which are also called as the oviducts. Other than that, there are glands. Correct, Muchilo? These glands are Bartholin's glands, Skinny's glands, and the mammary glands, which are the breasts. Okay, these are all part of the what, Muchilo? The female reproductive system. Okay. So, what do the glands include? The glands include BG. What is BG? Bartholin glands. Then Skinny's gland and mammary glands. So, what are three types of glands? Bartholin's gland, Skinny's glands, mammary glands. There what were the glands? In the male, seminal vesicles, prostate gland and Cowper's gland. And here how many glands are we going to study? Three. What are three glands? Bartholin's gland and mammary glands. Okay. So now let us start with the external genitalia. There also, if you remember, we had first started with the external genitalia. So what is the external genitalia in the female called, Bucho? I just mentioned it. What is the external genitalia in a female called? It is called as vulva. Right, Buchalo? Okay. Now, in the males, the external genitalia included the scrotum and the penis. Now, this is the anterior view, the front view of the vulva. So we say that it is the external genitalia of the female which is located in the front of the anus. Look at the proximity, closeness of the anus and the external genitalia. And that is why I have told you many a times that the region of the vulva is kept highly acidic. Because of the front and back washing of defecation, there is a high chance that the bacteria will enter into the regions of the vulva. So that acidity is required to kill those bacteria. It's a part of your innate immunity. You got my point? And that area should harbor, should not harbor the growth of bacteria. I hope you got my point. That is why UTIs, urinary tract infections, are very common in females. Got my point? And if the UTIs are common, you remember the lotions and all that are provided, lactocalamine and all, they help to maintain the pH of that particular region. Now, what are the different parts that are included in the vulva? Okay. Now, the first part that I'll begin with is a region which is called as the vestibule. What is the region called, Vachalo? Vestibule. Okay. So it's like it's a depression. Now look at my whole hand, Vachalo. Okay. Now can I say I've made a depression in my hand? And that depression is called as the vestibule. Lक्षात मी काय सांगितलं? ते पूर्ण असं depression सारखं दाखवलं मी. That is called as vestibule. And this vestibule has got different parts in it. I hope you got my point. So can I say that right now I have highlighted the depression. And what is that depression called? Vestibule. Okay. The vestibule shows the presence of, okay, I'll show it here only. It shows the presence of, do you see, there are, I'll just remove this, I'll show it shorter. ये पूरा जो region है, that is the region of the vestibule. Can I say this circle that I have shown in black, will you call it anterior or posterior? Anterior, it's upper is anterior. And this one, the red one I'm showing now. So now tell me which is anterior, which is posterior. This one is the anterior. And the other one is posterior. Now just see, it's a very small aperture. The anterior aperture is very small. Okay. And that is called as the urethral orifice. What do you call it? Urethral orifice. You remember urethral orifice? Also called the urethral meatus. It is the external opening of the urethra and it is a place for urination, micturition. Got my point? Below that orifice, do you see a larger one? And that is called as the vaginal orifice. It is the opening of the vagina. And it's a place for the birth of the child, coitus, and the menstrual flow. This vaginal orifice, it receives the penis during coitus. It is out just for the outflow of the menses, and it is a place from where the baby is pushed out. It will lead into a tube which is called as the vagina. So is the tube seen from outside? No. What is seen from outside? The opening, which is called as vaginal orifice. In male and females, is the urethra seen from outside? No. What is seen is the opening, which is called as the urethral orifice. Okay. So what reminds me is, in the case of males, we have a urinogenital passage, but in the case of females, the urinary and the genital passages are separate. What my point? If you talk about amphibians and the reptilians, they show the presence of a common opening called cloaca. Especially the amphibian, you remember amphibian, I told you this point, which is for the removal of excretory waste, even reproductive and even digestive waste. What my point? But in the case of human males, it is urinogenital, but in the human females, it is separate. Urinary and genital openings are totally different. Alagi lakshat sarvana? Got my point? Okay. Now, so kids, what we have highlighted on, can you just help me over here? What is this region? We have highlighted on the region of the vestibule. है ना? We are talking about vulva, and in the vulva I am talking about a region which is called as vestibule. Now, I already spoke about the anterior smaller urethral orifice and a posterior larger vaginal orifice. Okay? Now, you remember I had mentioned Bartholin's gland and Skinny's glands? Athola? Two glands I had mentioned. Bartholin glands and Skinny's glands. Skinny was the name of a person. The glands of Skinny's are also called as paraurethral glands. What are they called, Bachalo? Paraurethral glands. Okay? क्या बोलेंगे उस ग्लैंड्स को? Paraurethral glands. Now, when I say they are paraurethral glands, you will come to know about its location. And what is the location? It will be on the either side of the urethral orifice. Okay, they will be on the either side of the what, Bachalo? Urethral orifice. So the small glands, they are located around the which opening? Urethral opening. And they are homologous to the prostate gland in males. They are homologous to the prostate glands in males. Homologous matlab they are functionally similar but structurally different. Okay. So then, what would be the function? During copulation, during sexual intercourse, these glands, they will secrete an alkaline fluid to neutralize the acidity of the vagina, so that the number of sperms that are killed will be little less. I hope you got my point, Bachalo. Ayana. So what do they secrete? They secrete a slightly alkaline fluid. which will neutralize the acidity of vagina at the time of copulation. So at the time of sexual coitus, these glands become secretive when a female is under sexual arousal. Just like there is a male sexual act, there is also a female sexual act, during which these glands secretes an alkaline fluid that will reduce the acidity of the vagina. I hope my voice is understood. Everybody? No. The other glands, what are they, bachalo? Vestibular glands. Okay. So you have a pair of vestibular glands on the either side of the vaginal orifice. You remember the vaginal orifice? Was it the anterior one or a posterior one? Posterior. And on the either side, it is showing the presence of a pair of glands which is called as Bartholin's glands or the vestibular glands. And these are homologous to the male Cowper's gland. Okay, so can I say that at the time of copulation, they will secrete a fluid which will help to lubricate the vagina during sexual intercourse. So if you remember, even the Cowper's gland was secreting a clear, viscous fluid, and it came before ejaculation. It was also helping in what? Lubrication. Here also, the Bartholin's gland, that is the vestibular glands, under the female sexual act, will release a viscous fluid that will provide lubrication to the vagina at the time of coitus. Clear, everybody? Okay. Now, another thing, Muchalo. Now, just within the vagina, okay, you can see almost a pinky finger inside the vagina. Okay, so I told you that vagina is a tube, right? I told you vagina is a tube. So in the front view, will you be able to see the vagina or the orifice? Orifice. So just let me say that this is the tube, and in the front view I am only able to see the anterior part of the tube. Now I am showing the tube on the side view. Just beneath the vagina, pinky finger beneath the vagina, there is a tissue, a mucous membrane tissue. Got my point? And that is called as the hymen. What do you call it? Hymen. Okay? And this hymen, okay, has very small perforations that will help in the menstrual flow to come out. Got my point? And the hymen ruptures at the time of coitus. Got my point? And a female who has never had coitus, or a male also who had never had coitus, is said to be virgin. Okay? And the hymen breaks at the time of coitus. Okay? So they used to consider that the breaking of the hymen is an indication of loss of virginity. But the hymen can also break due to certain type of fevers, due to gymnastics and exercises. So that is why the breaking of the hymen is not a proof for the loss of virginity. You got my point? Did you understand my point, Bachalo? So, the vaginal orifice, just be inside the vaginal orifice, there is a tissue which is called as the hymen. The hymen has perforations to allow the menstrual flow outside. Okay? During sexual intercourse, the hymen will break. So, does the breaking of the hymen confirm the loss of virginity? No, I told you what is virginity. Because it can break also due to other reasons. I hope I'm very clear, Bachalo. So, have I explained the vestibular region, guys? Hannah? And I told you in the vestibular region about what, Bachalo? The urethral orifice. Then we explained the vaginal orifice. We spoke about the openings of the BG, that is the Bartholin glands, and we also spoke about the paraurethral glands or the Skinner's glands. I hope you got it, everybody. Yes or no? Okay. Now, the Skinner's gland is homologous to dash. And Bartholin's, I hope, huh? Next. Now, look here, guys. The depression, what is the depression called? Vestibule. It is covered by two thick folds of skin. It is covered by two thick folds of skin. Outermost two thick folds of skin, which is called the labia majora. What do you call it? Labia majora. Labia means lips. Majora matlab big. Two outer thick folds of skin, which is called as the labia majora. Okay? Followed by there are two inner thin folds of skin. And what will be that called, Bachalo? Labia minora. So the region of the vestibule is surrounded by two outer thick labia majora. And can I say they form the outermost boundary of the vulva? Followed by two thin lip-like folds below the labia majora are the labia minora. बराबर कि नहीं? The labia majora is darkly pigmented and can show the presence of sparse hairs. So tell me, whom is it homologous to? The scrotum of the male. You remember this point? So the labia majora is homologous to the scrotum of the male. Shall I continue? Now, posteriorly, which part I am talking about, Bachalo? Posteriorly. Not anterior. Posteriorly. Posteriorly, the labia minora are fused. And this is called as the fourchette. Yeah, fourchette. It's a French word. Okay? Which is called as what? Fourchette. Okay? And anteriorly, which part I am talking about now? Anterior. There is a small, highly sensitive erectile tissue. Small, highly sensitive erectile tissue, which is located at the anterior junction of the two labia minora. बराबर है? It is called as clitoris. It is made up of corpora cavernosa. So it is homologous to the male penis. It's a site of sexual excitement in females. So just like I taught you the male sex act, in the female sex act, if it has got corpora what? Cavernosa, then under the sexual arousal, it is an erectile tissue. It is an erectile tissue. It's an erectile tissue. So normally it is going to be what? Flaccid. But during the female sexual act, it is going to be erect. So that is why we say that it's an erectile tissue. A sensitive area. Okay. What? No, yes. It's a sensitive area which is called as the clitoris. It's a place of sexual excitement in females. Are you there with me, Bachalo? Yes or no? Okay. Now, above the labia majora is a fleshy elevation. There is a fleshy elevation. Fleshy matlab it is a lot of adipose tissue. These are the structural differences between a male genitalia and female genitalia that makes us sexually dimorphic. We are biologically designed only in that manner. You got my point? And there is nothing in between. Male and female. Got my point? So in the case of the female genitalia, we see the presence of what, Bachalo? The mons pubis. And what is the mons pubis? It's a fleshy elevation above the labia majora. Got my point? And it is made up of adipose tissue and it shows the presence of female pattern genital hairs. It shows what? Female pattern genital hairs. Did you all get my point? Yes or no? Okay. So what is the external genitalia called? Vulva. And I'll do a quick recap. The external genitalia is called vulva. The vulva is made up of vestibule, labia majora, labia minora, mons pubis. The depression is the vestibule. It shows the presence of an anterior small urethral orifice and a posterior larger vaginal orifice. So in females, the urinary and the reproductive openings are separate. They show the presence of paraurethral glands, also called as the Skinner's glands. Yes or no, guys? Which are homologous to the male. They secrete a dash fluid, alkaline fluid, that will reduce the of the vagina at the time of copulation. Okay, and near the vaginal orifice are the openings of the which glands? Bartholin's glands, which provide lubrication at the time of coitus. Right? Now, the region of the vestibule is surrounded by two small thin folds called labia minora, and the outermost boundaries to thick folds which are called as the labia majora. The labia minora posterior fusion is called fossae, and near the anterior fusion there is a erectile tissue which is called as clitoris. It's a site of sexual excitement in females, similar to the male penis. I hope you got my point. Did you get this? And I told about the fleshy elevation above the labia majora, which is called as the mons pubis, which shows the presence of the female type of the genital hairs. Okay? Any questions, Bachalo? Have you all followed what I just spoke? Yes? So maybe I'll later on share the PDF and you can make the notes also. Okay, so let's start with the next part. See, why do you guys have to immediately start moving? Tell me. Okay. So what are the different parts of the female reproductive system? Uterus, then fallopian tubes, then vagina, and the vulva. Which part? And ovaries. Which part is external genitalia? Well, now let us talk about the female gonads. Who are the female gonad? Ovaries. External structure. Huh? Internal structure we'll do in tomorrow's lecture. Okay. So first let us do the external structure of the FRS, and tomorrow we'll take the transverse section of the ovaries. So the next time when we meet, we can start with the menstrual cycle. Okay. Now, so where are the female gonads located? In which cavity? Is it in the pelvic cavity or the abdominal cavity? So the female shows the presence of a pair of ovaries. In which cavity, bachalo? Abdominal cavity. Okay. And it is attached to the abdominal walls with the help of various ligaments. The other things, like their color and the dimension, you can yourself read and understand that they are grayish, pink, oval, almond shaped structures measuring about 3 centimeters long, 2 centimeters wide, and 1 centimeters thick. Okay. Now, so let us say that this is the ovary. Okay. Now, if this is the ovary, then this will be the piche ka wall will be which wall, bachalo? The dorsal body wall. Which body wall? Dorsal body wall. So this is the ovary, a round structure like this, oval structure. Piche ka wall will be which wall? And it is attached to the dorsal body wall. Okay. The ovaries are attached to the dorsal body wall. I'll show this like this. Piche ki taraf. By the mesovarium. By the mesovarium. Okay. So it connects it to which body wall, bachalo? The dorsal body wall. So the ovaries are suspended from the dorsal body wall by the mesovarium. Barabar hai? Then, okay, and if you look at this particular diagram, you will find that the ovaries are medially also connected to your uterus, and there is a ligament which will connect it to the uterus. Okay, So on one side, पीछे की तरफ it was connected to your dorsal body wall, and one side it is also connected to what बच्चे लोग? It is connected to the uterus, है ना? See here, and what is that ligament called? It is called as the ovarian ligament. क्या कहेंगे उसको? Ovarian ligament. So this ovarian ligament will anchor it. Anchor matlab it will attach it medially to the wall of the uterus, right? And laterally it is connected to your pelvic walls by another ligament which is called as the suspensory ligament. So what are three types of ligaments we have over there? Mesovarium, connecting it to the dorsal body wall, ovarian ligament connecting it to the uterus, and the suspensory ligament connecting to the pelvic wall. Okay. And what is the function of these ovaries? They help in the formation of the female gamete, and they'll also secrete the two important sex hormones, that is estrogen and progesterone. And we had studied estrogen and progesterone in chemical control and coordination. Okay. So in the next lecture, we'll cut the ovaries and look at them inside to study the TS of the ovary. Got my point? This lecture will move on to the next part, that is going to be the uterus. ठीक है? आया समझ में यहाँ तक सबको? Okay. External structure हो गया उसका. Okay. The uterus, which in common English is also called as the womb of the mother. Okay? Womb मतलब it's a lodging place. Womb मतलब एक रहने की जगह. Womb का मतलब क्या होता है? रहने की जगह. So ये एक एम्ब्रियो फीटस के रहने की जगह है, इसलिए उसको हम लोग बोलते हैं womb. Just like the liver is called hepatic, hepatic word हम लोग यूज करते हैं. So for the uterus, what is the word? Hysteria. Not the womb, hysteria. The biological name is what bachalo? Hysteria. English में we call it uterus or the womb. Okay? Now. Okay, now, so we have mentioned over there that it's a hollow, pear-shaped, muscular organ. It's highly distensible. What do you mean by distensible? It can extend itself. At the time of pregnancy, it will become 7 times its larger than its original size. It's a highly distensible organ, and as it starts distending, it will displace the surrounding organs, right? And then the pregnancy bump will become visible. That is not a stomach that is coming out. It is because of distension of the uterus with us developing inside, that you can clearly see a bump, which is called as the pregnancy bump, and it is almost 7 times larger than its original size. That is why we say that it is highly distensible, stretchable organ. I hope you got my point. Now, it is attached to the body wall, just like you had ligaments which were supporting the ovaries, na? You had ligaments which were supporting the ovaries, right, Bachalo? Similarly, you have the double fold of peritoneum, and I need not tell you what is peritoneum. I have told you many times what is peritoneum, which is called as the mesometrium or the broad ligament. Okay, so who supports the uterus? The broad ligament, which is also called as the mesometrium. I hope my class is following. Why is there murmur going on? If I told you about the spermatic cord, which was supplying blood vessels and nerve supply to the testes, this broad ligament will supply what, Bachalo? Blood supply and nerves to the uterine wall. I hope you got it, everybody. Now look at this particular view, guys. Okay, if you see, I already told you that it lies in which cavity, guys? It lies in the pelvic cavity. I said it. I said abdominal cavity. My bad. It is there which cavity? Pelvic cavity. Okay. Now, here also you will. Ovaries are located in the abdominal cavity. While teaching uterus, did I say pelvic or abdominal, or did not say anything? Okay. So now I am saying it that it is located in the pelvic cavity. Ovaries are located in the abdomen. Okay. Now, look at this position, bachalo. Can I say, I have to say, I have no choice. Who is this? Do you see the urinary bladder? Give me yes or no? Yes. And do you see this? Who is it? Uterus. So can I say it is behind the urinary bladder? Give me yes or no? It is behind the urinary bladder. Guys, do you see this opening? Yes or no? That is the anus. Who is it? Anus. Do you see this opening? That is the vaginal orifice. Look here, everybody. Give me yes or no? Yes. Do you see this opening? Yes. That is the urethral orifice. So I have shown you how many openings, kids? Three openings. Which is this one? Urinary, urethral orifice. Can I say it will lead into the urethra? Ultimately, it will lead into the urinary, and your uterus is behind the urinary bladder. Give me yes or no? Yes. Who is this? Anus. It will lead into the anal canal. Ultimately, it will lead into the rectum. So, can I say the uterus is in front of the rectum and it is behind the Hayana? Aya समझ में? It is in front of the and behind the, because I am showing you the front view or the side view. So who is this? Vertebra. Okay. Then I went to whom? See this? The vertebra. Anus, rectum, uterus, and the urinary bladder. I'll accept chalo. Omkar, mic check, mic check. No mic. Hey Bandu Dada, come here. Just, I don't want to exercise now, okay? No, that. You are small, na? Pick that up. Okay? Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Okay? Go. हैंग चालू की सुन नहीं सकते. कैसा मेडिकल कैसा बैठेगा तुम लोग पता नहीं. 10-10 घंटा ऑपरेशन कैसा करेगा मेरे को मालूम नहीं. तुम लोग ना वो इंस्टाग्राम का रील बनाओ, चलो 30 सेकेंड वाला. पेशेंस नहीं. हेलो, अरे वाह. माइक टेस्ट, दक्ष माइक टेस्ट. ओके ओके, you got the position. Now guys, has any one of you underwent a sonography for the uterus? Okay, boys don't raise your hand. कहीं पे तो नंबर लगे अपना, तो हाथ उठाने के तैयार है. Okay, so if any one of you has gone for a sonography of a uterus, they tell you to drink a lot of water. What is my point? They make you drink a lot of water and tell you to hold your urine. What is the logic for that? Can you tell me? Because when the urinary bladder will become full, don't you think it will push the uterus and bring it very close to your abdominal wall, so the sonography probe can easily locate it? What is my point? I hope you got it, everybody. This is related to the location. So just imagine just imagine the pain that our mothers have taken for us. That when the uterus is going to increase 7 times its original size, how uncomfortable she is going to feel for the 9 months. What is my point? Carrying a heavy load, okay, of say almost 2 to 3 kgs with all the organs displaced. Okay, but see, our little bit thoda thoda hota hai to kitna discomfort hota hai, and now you are supposed to carry it for the 9 months with all the displaced organs. So much uncomfort. You're supposed to sit, sleep with all that. What is my point? That is how uncomfortable it is at the time of pregnancy. What is my point? So this reminds me of the great pain that our mothers have gone for us, and we need to remember it always. You got my point? So because this is the age where your sex hormones are increasing, bachcho, and that is what makes you very bachcho, disrespectful towards your mothers. Later on, you'll realize after growing up a little bit, especially the boys. Right now, the testosterone gives them that manly, what you call, surge, and very few can control that. So that high testo makes them very disrespectful towards their mother. One of the reasons. So curb that. Control your anger. Have patience. Because she has gone through a lot of patience for you guys. The girl child is still okay. Okay. The boy child is another world altogether. Seriously, huh? That is I always mention while teaching this. Got it? Now, one of the most, can you just, not all boys, but there are many like me sitting over here. I need to address them. The so-called alphas. So where were we? Did you get my point, everybody? So look at the location and see the displacement that it must be causing. Now, so what is the uterus basically made up of? That it is giving 9 months of lodging to the fetus. So it is made up of 3 layers. How many layers, bachalo? 3 layers. So the uterus is made up of how many layers, bachalo? 3 layers. The outermost layer is the permetrium, and the middle layer, it is the smooth muscles, which is called as the myometrium. And the innermost layer is the most important one, because we want to use this layer later on, okay, when I'm going to teach you the menstrual cycle, and that is called as the endometrium. No murmur at the back. So what are the three layers, kids? Perimetrium, myometrium, and endometrium. And this endometrium is a place where the zygote will get buried inside. Okay, so I'll just make the endometrium larger. यही एंडोमेट्रियम को मैंने बड़ा बनाया, और ये देखो चेरी है, ये कौन है? जाइगोट है. धीरे धीरे वो बरी हो जाएगा किसके अंदर बच्चे लोग? एंडोमेट्रियम. तब हम बोलेंगे प्रेगनेंसी क्या हो गया? स्टार्ट हो गया. एंड दिस इज कॉल्ड एज इम्प्लांटेशन. फिर वो जैसे जैसे ग्रो होगा बच्चे लोग, then it will come out with that what you see in your movies and all that, with the baby developing like this, with connected to the endometrium. Got my point? So can I say the endometrium is giving nourishment to the developing zygote, and it also is a part of the placenta, which I'm going to teach you later. Okay, that also provides nourishment to the fetus. Now, once again, which is the site of implantation of the zygote? Endometrium. So the female reproductive system builds up the endometrium every month. After a girl child reaches the age of sexual maturity, that is puberty, every month the endometrium will be fully formed, so that the zygote will come and get implanted. But if implantation does not occur because of lack of fertilization, the endometrium will break. Endometrium will break. How much it will break, I'll teach you later on. I'm just giving you the overview, not the details. The endometrium will break, and as the endometrium will break, then blood, mucus, the dead cells will flow out through the vagina, and that will be called as the menses, or it is called as the menstrual flow. It's called as menses or the menstrual flow. Now you understood where the menstrual flow comes from? The menstrual flow comes from the breaking of the dash. Will it take place 1 month or every month? Every month. Till the time the female is in her childbearing age. Till the time the female is in her childbearing age. There will be menses every month because of the development of the endometrium and its periodic slugging off. Fake देना उसको. Got my point? Sometimes I explain the students in this manner कि मैंने मेरे घर पे खाने के लिए हाथ मार, अरे मूर्खा काय पाऊस बघितला नाही कधी? And दिसणार पाऊस दिसणार. What do you want to see? A fairy in that droplet? If the droplets fall and the fairy will come out and take you home, that is what he is expecting. The droplet, then if a fairy in the droplet, it will fall, the fairy will germinate and she will take me home. That is what he is expecting. More on. Where was I? Because of that. Right? Yeah. We are talking about the endometrium getting developed every month. I told you that sometimes we can explain it like this. कि आपने घर पे मेहमान बुलाया खाना खाने के लिए, और मेहमान ने कंफर्म नहीं किया, बोले हाँ मैं आएंगे हम लोग आएंगे, तो उनके एंटिसिपेशन में आपने अपने टेबल क्लॉथ के ऊपर सब अलग अलग टाइप का खाना रखा है ताकि वो आए और खाए, लेकिन the मेहमान did not turn out. So what did you do? You became very angry. So you took the entire tablecloth with all the khana and you threw it out. So who is the endometrium? The tablecloth. And the food has been prepared for the mehman. Who is the mehman? The zygote. Have you got my point? So what are the three layers of the wall of the uterus? Which is a site for implantation. Which layer gets slugged off during during menses? Endometrium. And the myometrium is a muscular layer. So its contractions will help in what, bachalo? Parturition. Now kids, the uterus is divided into three regions. How many regions? Do you see the upper dome shaped region? Give me yes or a no. It is called fundus. What do you call it? Fundus. Do you see the middle part? It is called as the body. And do you see the posterior most part? So rather than posterior, the lowermost part. And that is called as the cervix. So what are the three regions, bacho? Fundus, body, cervix. Fundus, body, cervix. Who is the upper dome shaped part? Fundus. The middle part is the body. And the lowermost part is the cervix. Now if you see, the cervix has got a canal. This canal is called as the cervical canal. And can I say, the cervical canal, look here. Why are you looking there? Look here. Which is this canal? Can I say the cervical canal is opening in the vagina? This chamber is what, bachalo? Vagina. As well as the cervical canal is opening into the body of the uterus. So this opening and this opening, two openings. This is called as the internal os. And this one is called as the what? External os. What is my point? At the time of pregnancy, the cervical muscles are also very strong, because they'll be contracted like this and they'll hold the fetus, and there'll be mucus and thickenings that will close this. And as the days of parturition will come nearer, there will be liquefaction of this mucus and the mucilage, and slowly the openings will start opening. I got my mind? So a trained gynecologist, she will study the size of the openings and she can tell what would be the time of parturition. So sometimes she'll be like very confident. No, take the mother home. Around say 4-5 days there'll be no problem. What my point? Sometimes she hurries. कि नहीं अभी admit कर देते. What my point? So because she has studied कि when is the right time to admit and when is it very close to the time of delivery, by studying this region. I hope you got my point. So you have the cervix, whose muscles are very strong. They can hold the entire fetus up. Okay. They have external os that opens into the vagina, and the internal os that opens into the body of the uterus. अब समझ में आप लोग को कि कैसे वो लोग बताते हैं कि क्यों वो इसकी तरफ देखते हैं, एक्सटर्नल ऑस और वो सर्वाइकल कैनाल की तरफ. ठीक है, बच्चे लोग समझ में आ रही है थोड़ी थोड़ी बात. Now it opens into a copulatory chamber. And what's the copulatory chamber called? It's called as the vagina. What kids? So why am I saying the copulatory chamber, bacho? Because it receives the penis during coitus. It is also a birth canal because the baby is pushed out through the vagina. But so you saw the vaginal orifice? Now imagine us coming out through it. So just imagine the amount of dilation it has to undergo to bring your head and the big bum that comes out through it. You keep on eating, become fat there inside. So your mother has to push you out. तो pain होगा कि नहीं होगा? Because it is undergoing extreme what बच्चे लोग? Dilations. So that is why it is called copulatory chamber, as well it is called as the birth canal. So is it a bony structure or is it a muscular tube I mentioned? Good, you're not sleeping. Do you see this folds inside, bacha? Like the gastric rugge. Here you have got which rugge? The vaginal rugge or ruge, whatever it is. And another important thing is there are cells and they're secreting glycogen. क्या होता है उसको? Glycogen. In order to harbor, give a place to the lactic acid bacteria, so that they'll eat those carbohydrates and produce what? Lactic acids, which will keep the vagina acidic. So if the vagina area is dry, having UTIs, you must have seen there are lactobacillus creams, jellies available. Okay, so who is a natural bacteria over there? The lactobacillus. Okay, सो गए सब लोग? हमें क्या बोलना चाहते हो आप? So vagina is a muscular tube. It shows the folds which are called as the vaginal rugge. It has a lot of glycogen which gives a place to the lactic acid bacteria, which will do anaerobic respiration to produce lactic acid that will keep the region acidic. And who is this tissue, bachalo? Who is this tissue? Who is this? Hymen. Right? So, if the hymen is broken, it confirms loss of virginity, right? No. Got it? That was about whom? Uterus. So, let's quickly recap. Which cavity is the uterus present? Abdominal or pelvic? Pelvic. How was that? It's a J-shaped muscular bag-like structure. No, it's a pear-shaped muscular bag-like structure. It is located behind the dash, in front of the. Do you remember that view where I showed you all the three openings? Anal, vaginal, and urethral. बरोबर कि नहीं? The uterus has got three layers from outside to inside. Permetrium, myometrium, and the myometrium is made up of smooth muscles. Endometrium is site of implantation. Right? So if implantation will not take place, what will happen to the endometrium? It will get rupture. Why is it rupture? Slugged off. Menses will start. Three structures, three parts. The uterus has got three parts. Prachi, what are the three parts?
Fundus, body and cervix.
Fundus, body and the cervix. So what is the fundus? Upper dome shaped part. Middle main part is the body and the cervix. You remember internal os and external os? It opens into the vagina, प्राची, what is the vagina? तू कर ले इस बात पहले बात प्लीज, तू भागने का भी जल्दी फटाफट. It is the copulatory chamber, vaginal rugae, hymen, glycogen, lactobacillus. टक 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 सब समझ में आ गया? लेट्स बढ़े आगे बच्चों. ये थक गया है? थक गए बच्चों लोग? We can do the fallopian tubes and next tomorrow we can do the structure of the ovaries. Okay? Let's do the fallopian tubes and stop there. Are you clear up to here, all of you? Okay. So what's the next part? The fallopian tubes. How does it go again? क्या है क्या है क्या है क्या चल रहा है? सुनेगा नहीं, इसको नहीं सुनेगा. So many pairs of fallopian tubes are there, bachcho? One pair. What is Siddhant searching for? So the fallopian tube has got three parts. Imagine, just imagine me to be the uterus. Look at these two hands like this. So what is this one hand? One fallopian tube. What is the shoulder part? It is called the isthmus. क्या उसको? Isthmus. The middle part is called the ampulla, and the most distal part is called as the infundibulum. Okay, and the ampulla is the site of fertilization. Okay, the infundibulum has got finger-like projections. Do you see finger-like projections? These finger-like projections are called fimbriae. क्या होता है उसको? Fimbriae. क्या होता है उसको? And do you see it has got an opening there? The infundibulum has an opening there. It's called ostiole. क्या होता है उसको? Ostiole. When the fimbriae will move, okay, it will help the released ovum to enter into the ostiole. From there it will lead into the fallopian tube, so that the ampulla will reach the sperm for fertilization. So we said that there are a pair of tubes extending laterally from the sides from the uterus, and it's a muscular tube. What is this? The size about 10 centimeters, and the peritoneum that supports it's called as the mesosalpinx. It is divided into how many parts? 3 parts. What are 3 parts? The most distal part, सबसे दूर वाला part, is the infundibulum. Okay, and it shows the presence of an opening called ostiole, surrounded by structures which are called as the fimbriae. It opens in the middle part. What is that called? Ampulla. And the ampulla then opens into the isthmus, and the isthmus opens into the uterus. Barabar hai? Yes, Aditya, stop it. Okay. So